Okay, so we will go into this much more next week, but I do just want to very briefly explain to you or show you how to trigger audio playback in Pure Data. So next week we're going to go much more into digital audio and how to manipulate it in PD. This week was really about setting up the basic the building blocks that we're going to need to do that. But just in order for you to get sound out of PD and maybe just start playing with it in a simple way, we can look at how to play back an audio file. It's not too tricky. Let's find the patch. Really, you've only got to worry about a couple of objects in PD to get sound to play back. The most basic object for doing sound file playback is this read SF, read sound file object. So you initialize that in Pure Data. And I don't think I've actually shown you how to do that yet. So let me show you how to create an object. You go to the Put menu up here and select Object. That creates an empty box for you. You type in the name of the object, in this case read SF with a tilde, and followed by a space and any arguments that are required. In this case, read SF takes the number of audio channels of output that you're going to be using. And then once you've typed in that, you click outside the box and the object is created for you. If you want to create a message object, you select the Put menu again and Message. And it creates a message object for you. The message objects, as you would have seen, sort of look like regular objects but with a sort of curvy side to them. And you can type stuff into these message boxes, just like so. So with that knowledge, you have enough knowledge to create objects and create this patch, which will open and play a sound file. So we have the reads SF object, which actually opens the file and sort of processes it. We have the DAC object that I did briefly have very early on, the digital analog converter object. This essentially means the audio output of your computer, headphone output or the speaker output, whatever you've got hooked up. So we're taking the audio outputs from the read sound file object and feeding it into the inlets of the digital audio converter, which means that when we're sending digital audio out the sound file, we should hear it. And then I've got a couple of messages here. The first one, if we look at the documentation for the read SF file by using help, we could read that, and that would explain to us that if we first send it a message, an open message, we can tell it to open up a particular file on disk. This is just a WAV digital audio file I've got on my computer in the same directory as the PD patch. So we can send that message first. That gets readsf to open the file, but it doesn't yet play it. When we send the one message, it will actually start to play the audio file. Before I do that, another trap for young players with PD is you need to make sure that if you want to be doing anything which requires audio processing, you need to make sure that the DSP, digital signal processing, is turned on. So if this is turned off, then no audio processing will take place and you won't hear any actual audio. So make sure that's turned on first. We've already clicked on this message to open up the sound file, so that should be open and ready to go. And when I click on one, I don't know how well that will be coming through on the recording, but when I click that, the audio file starts playing. So again, open it and play. So a very short audio file I've got there, just 10 seconds or so. But the audio file really could be, an arbitrary length. Now what you can do as well, of course, is you could trigger that audio file playback using processing. So you could send an OSC message from processing to Pure Data and say, start playing this audio file. You could even send a message which specified a particular audio file to play. So maybe if you've got a game running in processing, you could send it a message to say, sound, play, explosion, sound, play, cannon fire, sound, play, whatever, background music. And I've got a very simple patch here which does that, I think. So let me open up both the processing sketch and the Pure Data. So let's look at processing sketch first. Fairly simple, all objects we've looked at before. We've got UDP receive on port 12346. So we feed the outlet whatever we receive on that port through unpack OSC object, which, as it says, sort of processes that open sound control message. We're then routing just the particular message /pure data /play sound out this outlet. Every other message would be ignored. It would be sent out this outlet. We don't do anything with it, so it's ignored. So this pure data /play sound message will be sent out here into a trigger object. Trigger object sends a bang out this outlet first, which opens up that audio file I just played. It sends that message into readsf, telling it to open up that audio file. Then the second trigger outlet over here sends the one message into readsf, which should tell it to actually start playing. So in other words, when we receive a message in this port 12346 with this this OSC message /pure data /play sound, we should hear that WAV file. That's all that patch does. All the processing sketch does, well, it's a it's a hacked version of. No, it's not. It's the wrong one. It is this one. This is a very simple processing sketch. Doesn't do very much except use the OSC P5 library so that we can actually create and send open sound control messages. In our setup method, we create the OSC P5 message, the open sound control object. We tell it to listen on port 12345, but in this case we're not listening, we're more interested in sending, so we're going to be saying let's send to this remote location, let's send to the local host on port 12346, which is the port PD is listening on. And when the mouse is clicked, we're going to create a new open sound control message with this /pure data /play sound, what do you call it again, that selector, sorry, address pattern, keep forgetting that term, address pattern. And then we basically just send that message. So that doesn't really matter. That message doesn't need to have any data. We're not actually sending any data with it. We're just sending the message with no arguments whatsoever. We're just saying, play a sound. We're just using it as a trigger. So when the mouse is clicked, we create the OSC message. We send it on port 12346. Hopefully our patch receives it, and that triggers the audio playback. So let's check our DSP is on. It is. Otherwise you wouldn't hear anything. Then we'll run our pure data sketch. Nothing happening. But when I click on our processing sketch, again, not sure you can hear that, but hopefully you can hear the audio file is now playing from pure data. So we've successfully linked the output, we've linked our processing sketch to pure data and triggered audio. Pretty cool stuff. All right, that's it for this week.